Our second speaker is Damien Agut-Labordère, who since 2012 has been a permanent researcher at the French National Center for Scientific Research, and he will be talking about religious interactions between Persians and Egyptians in Achaemenid Egypt.
Je le dis en français, mais après je parlerai anglais. Merci Raïm pour cette invitation. Merci beaucoup. My first title was Religious Interaction Between Persians and Egyptians in Achaemenid Egypt, as you can read in the conference program. But in the course writing my paper, I realized that it was impossible for me to go in depth in this topic in 20 minutes. This explained my decision to focus exclusively on a very important and poorly studied document. A document that those working on Persian Egypt have necessarily come across. On the screen, you can see the stele kept in the... You can see... and I can't see my text. You can see the stele kept in the Berlin Ägyptisches Museum under the inventory number 7493. The picture and the hieroglyphic text are engraved in a small limestone slab of rectangular form, 29 cm height and 19 cm wide. This stele is about the same size as an A4 sheet of paper. It comes reportedly from the Fayoum. The engraved picture features a man named Padi-Usirpre. His name is written in hieroglyph script behind him. Padi-Usirpre appears as a priest. His head is shaved. He is wearing a simple loincloth. The falcon is designated as Horus in the text, engraved on the lower part of the stele, but also as Darius. Indeed, we can read Tiresh in the cartouche engraved just behind the bird. The name of Darius, the third, the second, or even the third, we don't know, is preceded by the epithet Necher Nefer Nebtawi, the nice or perfect god, lord of the two lands. Considering the wall image, Padi-Usirpre performs the Egyptian adoration gesture, an action which is designated by the verb dua, in front of Darius, assimilated to the god Horus. The three lines of hieroglyphic text placed below function as a commentary of this scene. It also provides the name of the dedicant of the stele. The text was first edited by Max Burckhardt in 1911, and the transliteration is quite correct. We can translate the short text as thus. This is the face of the great god giving life to Pashep, son of... We can't read the name of the father of Pashep. This Horus giving life to Padi-Usirpre, son of Pefchaunet, born from the lady Tawa-Huzir. While the scene features Padi-Usirpre adoring Darius as Horus, the text contains the names of another individual, Pashep. Pashep is very probably the commissioner of this small stele erected in favor of Padi-Usirpre. The fact that Padi-Usirpre is designated as an imar in the text, an imar is a person which is dead but which have life after the dead, clearly indicates that we are in front of a funerary stele. The stele was very probably erected to commemorate Padi-Usirpre's burial. It could have been recessed into a wall of the tomb by his friend Pashep. As both men don't seem to have family connection, I would rather assume they were friends. Pierre Briand, in his monumental work Histoire de l'Empire Perse, analyzes this monument as one of the rare testimony of personal piety experienced by an ordinary Egyptian private individual toward one of the great kings. I have quoted here the English translation of the text. The fact that Darius is identified to the falcon god is in itself not a surprise. As noted by Melanie Wasmuth in his last book, the royal titulature of Darius I includes the traditional Horus name. Even more, in the temple of Amun in Ibis, Darius was also identified to Horus as a falcon. You can see the name of Darius in the cartouche with the red indicator. Receiving life from the gods Montu on the upper part and Hamun of Karnak. As a pharaoh, Darius was necessarily assimilated to Horus by part of the population who recognized his royal authority. In his brief commentary, Briand points out the uniqueness of the Padiousirs stele. As a private and, moreover, a poor-quality monument, it testifies not only to the fact that a part of the Egyptian population had really assimilated Darius to the god Horus, but even more, worshipped the Persian king as a funerary god. This stele would testify to the fact that the great kings enjoyed a political legitimacy that was not limited to the rallied Egyptian elite, as it was the case with Ujaureznet, but was to be found in the social category below it, within the provincial middle class. The fact that Darius Horus was involved in Egyptian funerary conception means that the Persian domination on Egypt was not only based on coercion, but also had been able to generate a genuine feeling of allegiance rooted in the depth of the Egyptian society. This feeling was so strong that Persian kings had incorporated Egyptian funerary beliefs. We are far from the widespread idea in historiography, of an anti-Persian sentiment widely shared among the Egyptian population. Nevertheless, before concluding on this very important topic concerning the nature of the Persian domination on Egypt, we need to clarify two problems raised by the Padiousirs stele. The first one concerns the heterogeneous nature of the stele, which puts face to face a skillfully carved image of a bird and a clumsily executed image of an Egyptian priest. We need also to go further in the reading of the name of the Pashep's father. This could help to shed light on the ethnic context of the conception of the stele. At first, I have to underline the fact that the stele is not designed as a funerary one, because all the Egyptian funerary stele have a rounded top, as we can see on this funerary stele from the 4th century BC. The dedicant of the Padiousirs stele was aware of this problem. He tried to solve it without changing the shape of the slab, but by carving the winged disc overarching the main scene, which clearly indicates that this monument was intended to be rounded top. And you can see the winged disc. This kind of bricolage indicates that the slab passed into the hands of at least two carvers or stone workers. The first one was able to cut out a fairly neat rectangle of limestone with neat angles, while the second was unable to round off the top of the stele. The fact that at least two sculptors worked on this stele is also obvious when comparing the making of the falcon and of the figure of Padiousirs. The proportion of the picture of the bird correspond to those of a real falcon. This is not the case with the picture of Padiousirs, whose arms seems to be atrophied when compared with the rest of the body. We can also compare the drawings of the heads. While the beak, the eyes of the falcon are carved with great details. We can even see what we call the serre, the waxy structure at the base of the beak. The face of Padiousirs is only suggested. How can we explain such a discrepancy within the same monument? This is where we get into the realm of assumptions. The one I submit to your sagacity today is based on a very simple observation. If we examine the Paleozirpre stele, we can see that the falcon is at the center of the slab. This is quite unusual for a funerary stele in which the god and the deceased share the space equally. If we combine this last remark with the fact that the Paleozirpre stele doesn't have the required shape to be a funerary stele, we have to conclude that Mr. Pashep dedicated a slab bearing a very nice engraved falcon, which were transformed in a funerary monument in a second time. The hieroglyphic texts bear the marks of the same clumsiness as the ones that we observe on the drawing of Paleozirpre. The carver of the text was unable to align it and more surprisingly, to arrange the text correctly in relation to the falcon. He carved the first sign, so at right, of the first line too high in regard to the falcon tails. He was thus obliged to bring the entire text down. Besides this, he has multiplied the graphic and orthographic blunders. In the name of Darius, there is a confusion between the letter, the double yod, the he, and the hieroglyphic for the country, Sechet. In the name of Paleozirpre, the text, the name of the person is not written in the right direction. So the hieroglyphics have to be carved in the direction of the Paleozirpre's eyes. And in the three-line demotic hieroglyphic text, the word nebet is written nebehet with an H, and there is a confusion with a determinative. That clumsiness in the drawing and these graphic and orthographic mistakes could indicate that Pashep transformed himself the slab bearing the engraved falcon. At the end of this hypothesis remains the question of the original monument. To the extent that the falcon is also the hieroglyph hair, I wonder if the original monument could be a sculptor model such as you can see on this slide. These models were used by the stone carvers as exercise to learn how to carve in stone some particularly complex hieroglyphs, such as those depicting birds. Two swallows of different size here. All these birds were carved with great precision as the falcon of the Paleozirpre stele. One can imagine that these models had a market value and could be resold and recycled. If this hypothesis can explain the difference in artistic level within the stele, it is useless to address the most important problem of choosing the image of a falcon named Darius as a funerary god. It is time to consider the problem of the name of the Pashep's father. The name of the father of Pashep is situated at the end of the first line of the hieroglyphic text. Only Borcard published a normalized hieroglyphic transcription of this small group of signs. He proposed to read this group as Chach. Note that the last letter of the group is accompanied by a question mark. Could we do better? Maybe. Looking at the excellent picture kindly provided by the Berlin Museum, we can confirm the reading of Borcard for the first sign. This is clearly a Che. And of the second sign, so the first sign, the big plant is a Che. We can, and of the second sign, which correspond to the same letter in transliteration, Che also. It is a circle, so we have two Che. The Aleph, restituted by Borcard, is absent. We have a patronym starting by two letters, Che, Che. The least we can say is that Che, Che is not an Egyptian name. What can we do with the last sign that Borcard read with hesitation as a T? The T is a semicircle. One on this last point, the images are of crucial helps. Looking closely on the last sign, we can clearly see that it is a determinative of the foreign land. This determinative is a determinative of the name of foreign origin. Rere can't be connected with no Egyptian name attested. Rere can be connected with an attested Lydian, Nubian, Greek, Aramaic name transcribed in hieroglyphic or in demotic. To get out of this impasse, we have to point out the fact that the fricative re is frequently confused with another fricative, she. This last remark is very helpful because if re is unknown, resh are the first two letters of re shi resh, the Egyptian transcription of the name Xerxes. Why could the scribe forget the three last letters? I wonder if it is not due to both graphic and prosodic reason. If you look at the beginning of the first two lines, you can observe an anaphoric composition based on an assonance between her, the face, and her, Horus. This assonance is clearly if you translate the hieroglyphic text in Coptic, Ho, the face, and Hor, Horus. The scribe took care to underline graphically this assonance by putting the two lines in parallel. So you are here, her, the face, and here, Hor, Horus. The two lines in parallel, her pen, this face, and her pen, this Horus. It was a pretty good idea, but it implied that the scribe was able to make the first sentence fit on the first line. It seems that he failed to give the signs the right size to fit in a single line. That could explain the fact that the hand of the name Reshi Resh was amputated. In a nutshell, if my two hypotheses are correct, Pashep, son of Xerxes, has dedicated a stele for his deceased friend Padi-Usir-Pre. As an Egyptian of Persian origin, he used the falcon god Horus, assimilated with the Persian reigning king Darius as a funerary god. The choice of a falcon god allows to reuse a sculptor's model by converting it in a funerary stele. Either Pashep was a clumsy sculptor, unless he can't afford a skillful sculptor. The fact remains that all this makes for a bizarre but extremely rich monument for the historians. The Padi-Usir-Pre stele is therefore not strictly speaking a monument linked to the popular piety of the Egyptian in general, but to that of the Persian families settled in Egypt over several generations. Thus, these Persians are still attested in the Fayum during Hellenistic period. In his lecture at the Collège de France, Jean Yoyot spoke of Greek Egyptiotes to designate the Greeks who settled in Egypt from the Saïd period and for several generations. I will therefore propose to see in this stele a monument produced by a Persiote family, a Persian family established in Egypt for 1 or 2 generations. This monument could give us a small idea of what might have happened if Alexander the Great had not been there. It would then have flourished on the banks of the Nile and an Egyptian-Persian civilization where the great kings would have punctually joined the procession of the Egyptian funerary gods. Thank you for your attention.